Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe right now. Leave a comment on the video. Share it with your friends. It's also a podcast, 3 and Out, wherever you listen with me, John Middlekauff, Apple, Spotify. We have you covered, as well as thevolume.com. We have merch. Check out. I got 3 and Out hats right now. Thevolume.com. Search the podcast. Buy some merch. Well, I was just eating dinner, a little Mexican food. I'm outrageously full right now. And I get a text message, mid-bite. Keenan Allen traded to the Chicago Bears. What? That was a pretty big wow moment. Not that he got traded, because after the combine, it was clear the Chargers had to figure out 4 players. The 2 defensive linemen, Bosa and Mack, over the last 48 hours, both restructured their contracts, and both are staying on the Chargers. Mike Williams, yesterday or 2 days ago, cut. Came down to one other guy. And what's funny is today, a guy kind of out of the blue in the NFL texted me, asking me some questions about him. And now looking back, clearly rumors were, not rumors, like the teams were being contacted, like Keenan Allen's on the trade block. And I think it was just reported that they asked him to take a pay cut. He said no and traded to the Bears. And I think there are a lot of different variables. One, the Chargers didn't have a choice. They had very, very tough cap issues that they had to work through. And if you're up against it and a guy is unwilling to do it, you ideally trade him so you don't take a dead cap hit, or you cut them like they did Mike Williams. And I mentioned this on the podcast, which we already recorded, that it's not shocking at all that Harbaugh, right, with his general managers from the Ravens, values defensive linemen more than he does wide receivers. Have you guys followed his career? He's wired like a defensive or an offensive lineman, not a former quarterback. So I would imagine it was a priority for him. Khalil Mack was very good the last year, 17 sacks, even though a bunch of them came in one game, but hasn't missed a game in 2 years. He's been durable. And Bosa, while he's not durable, plays a very important position. And they're also paying him a lot of money. Mike Williams, that was probably an easy one for him. I would imagine Keenan Allen was a tough decision for Harbaugh, right? It feels like his type player. But with their cap situation just moving forward, they put him on the block, and ultimately, once he declined the pay cut, they took a 4th-round pick. And I think from the Bears' perspective, what an incredible spot relative to most teams that draft number 1 this is for Caleb Williams or any top quarterback. Any year, most guys go to a dog shit team. They go to a team that is obviously drafting number 1, but devoid of talent. They do not have any players. Even it was unique the year Andrew Luck got there to the Colts, because he did inherit, Reggie Wayne was on the team, Mathis, Freeney. They had some players, right? Most times you go to the Bengals, who were god-awful when Burrow got there, or Jacksonville when Trevor Lawrence went there, god-awful. Usually get a team that just has no talent. You're by far the best player on the team. Usually your defense sucks, and maybe you got a guy or two on offense. Look at Bryce Young last year. Goes to a team that is just horrendous. Caleb Williams gets to go to, let's just look at the offensive side of the ball. DJ Moore is a high-end wide receiver. Very, very versatile player. Cole Kmet is a very, very solid tight end. You add Keenan Allen, who, let me read his stats. I X'd out of it. Since 2017, countless 100-catch seasons. Countless. And 2 years ago, when he only played in 10 games, he still had 66 catches. This guy, if he plays 14-plus games, is a lock to get you 100 catches. He's honestly, non-tight end, probably the most reliable guy in the league. Just chalk him up. If you tell me he plays 14-plus games, 100 catches. It's crazy how consistent he is. He's not the fastest guy, but he's just incredible at going over the middle. And he's awesome at just being a target for you in zone coverage, underneath, finding a way to get open. He's been doing it since he was in college at Cal, playing with his stepbrother, Zach Maynard, who's one of the worst college quarterbacks you'll ever see. But usually when these quarterbacks, they just are in a no-win situation early on in their career. And the Chicago Bears have some young offensive linemen. I don't love how much they spent on DeAndre Swift, but he's a legitimate starting running back. So you got a running back, you got a tight end, you got multiple wide receivers, and you got some good young offensive line pieces. I'm not even talking about the defense, because even if you do inherit some offensive players, your defense usually blows. Well, he's going to a defense now that traded for Montez Sweat. And, you can look at how much these defensive linemen got paid. You could say it was a little bit of an overpay. Maybe it turns out he would have got over $70 million. Regardless, they got him. Solid, high-end defensive lineman. Jalen Johnson, franchise keep. Both those guys are legitimate Pro Bowl players. And their defense down the stretch, once they added Sweat, was really good. And Eberflus is a good defensive coach. I do think a move like this, adding Caleb Williams, there's going to be a ton of pressure on Sirianni and Mike McCarthy, right? The Eagles were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Sirianni almost got fired. It's Philly. There's a ton of pressure on the football team, 24/7, 365. McCarthy is literally on the last year of his contract. And he's with the Cowboys. It's hard to duplicate what's going to be going on in those two operations with their head coach, conversation around the head coach. But I think Eberflus is under a ton of pressure. I mean, you get Caleb Williams. Anytime you have a rookie quarterback, even if you have talent around him, there is no guarantee that you're going to be some 9-8 team. You're going to be above 500. Eberflus has never proven that he can win in the NFL. So the pressure, but everyone has to acknowledge, whether you're an NFL scout, whether you're a fan, whether you're an opposing team, they got a legitimate NFL team. Not calling them Super Bowl contenders, but if their quarterback plays like a top 12, 15 guy, you should compete to be a playoff team. And that pressure starts immediately then. You can't afford to start slow, which can be difficult for a rookie quarterback. But I think the Bears have thrown their hat in the ring as one of the more interesting teams. I can't wait to watch them. Obviously, the elephant still in the room is Justin Fields. This is going to sound kind of mean, kind of cold-hearted, but I think he's kind of irrelevant. I think they'll end up giving him away for probably nothing, maybe even eat a little bit of a salary, maybe a team with a quote-unquote franchise quarterback is interested, right? A team like the Chiefs, maybe the Rams. I don't know. Just a team that you're 100% not going to be the starter. We want you. Maybe we'll rehabilitate you. But the market's kind of spoke. No one's that interested. Teams are more interested in giving $10 million to Sam Darnold or $15 million to Gardner Minshew. That literally just happened. So you come here, and it's not like he has any power in this. But the Justin Fields conversation to me is whatever. This is all about now this legitimate roster with Caleb Williams. Because Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 overall pick. They got players on offense. I mean, Keenan Allen, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but he's just one of those guys that during his career was one of the better wide receivers in the league for 7-8 straight years. And just a consistent dude that you want in the trenches on your squad. I think every NFL fan that has watched him play goes, that guy could play for my team any day of the week. DJ Moore, I feel the same about him. I love that guy. And then you factor in just kind of their defensive unit, which is clearly improved dramatically once they made the trade for Sweat. And I got to give them credit because we all make dumb decisions. We all make bad moves. Welcome to life. And when you're a general manager, your decisions are public. So people like me, people like you, fans, it's football. We like talking about it. We judge you on good and bad moves. And the Chase Claypool move, I thought was, pretty embarrassing. It was ugly. He's bounced back pretty well since. He really has. And that Carolina Panther trade is just an all-time trade. It definitely, and if Caleb becomes, he doesn't even need to become some top 5 quarterback. If he just becomes a top 12, 14 quarterback in the NFL, which everyone's like, how's that? No, he's going to, let's face it. It's very hard. The history of these quarterbacks, stop comparing him to Mahomes or Josh Allen. Can he just become a more athletic, stronger arm version of Dak Prescott? You're in great shape if that's the case. Obviously, best case scenario, he's a top 5 quarterback. But what if he's just a legitimate starter? What if he's a second contract guy? What if he's just the Bears starter for a decade? That doesn't happen often. Last I checked, that never happens with the Bears. Ryan Poles going to look like a fucking genius. And this is why you have wiggle room, you have cap space. A lot of teams were sniffing around Keenan Allen, but he's not cheap. So, like, every team in the league worth their salt wants Keenan Allen on their team. But you got to be able to balance the books making a trade because you inherit his contract. And I bet a lot of people were hoping he's cut so they could just negotiate with him then. But this is why, these guys, even if they're older, when you go take a pay cut, well, if you're smart and you look around the market, you go, kiss my ass. That's what Eric Armstead did. I'm not taking a pay cut. I haven't seen the guaranteed money, but my guess is it's well over $20 million from Jacksonville, and they gave him a 3-year contract at $50 million. And if he plays well, at minimum, he's seeing 2 of those 3 years. And this is Keenan Allen. I'm not taking a pay cut. Cut me. Because if I hit the open market, someone's going to pay me. And I bet someone will trade for me. And he was right. And in the NFL, the management and the front office has the juice with 95% of players. But good players have juice. Good players have leverage. Obviously, the quarterbacks have a ton of leverage. All the elite players, the Justin Jefferson types, the TJ Watts, the Nick Bosas, the Trent Williams, the Lane Johnsons, like the high end guys, always have some leverage. And then there's the group like the older veterans who are still impact players whose agent can look at the market and go, we're not taking a pay cut. Not doing it. And not many people get to say that in the NFL because when if 90% of the league says that, they say, okay, you're cut. Clean out your locker. And Keenan Allen said no. And now he's on the Bears, which I think has a chance to be a really, obviously it's a very interesting situation, but like I said, when's the last time a rookie quarterback just came into, not like young rookie wide receivers? Oh, they might be good. They might not be good. Two legitimate, established, Keenan Allen's been doing this for a decade. DJ Moore, the last 3 or 4 years, has been a really, really good player. You get 2 high-end wide receivers. If those 2 guys are healthy, you're going to go into most games. Some teams might have 2 better guys, but you're going to have 2 better wide receivers than a lot of teams you play, or at worst, a push. And then if your defense can just continue what we saw last year and be a top, like you don't need to be the number 1 defense. If you're just a top 10-ish defense, this division, like this is a swing. A couple years ago, Minnesota was on top. Last year, Green Bay got hot. Man, that's what an addition. Nice move by Ryan Poles, who got to give credit where credit's due. Stay hot, my man.